What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. I am the Hobbyist, and today I'm going to be showing you how to assemble a Traxxas carburetor. This is for a 2.5 or 3.3 Traxxas carburetor, and I'm going to be showing you the factory settings. So, here are all the parts that you're going to need. I'm going to point them all out to you, and then we'll get right to building. Things you're going to need to assemble the Traxxas carburetor is obviously the carburetor body, this really flat screw and the correct seal, this larger screw with the correct seal, this red seal which is going to go over the carburetor body, your low speed needle, your high speed needle, your high speed needle cuff along with the two silver washers, your idle speed needle, your intake nipple, one of these blue rubber boots, your throttle control handle with the set screw, and your carburetor slider with the spring. Tools you're going to need are a 1.5mm hex tool, this hex key thing which comes in all of the Traxxas Nitro kits, a small flathead screwdriver, and optionally a marker. So without further ado, let's get into the assembly. One tool I forgot to mention, you're also going to need a 2.5mm hex tool. Anyway, to start the assembly, first you're going to take your carburetor body and your largest rubber seal and place it over just like that. It's the easiest part. Next you're going to take your 2.5mm hex tool and your wide, flat, and very short screw and screw it into this spot right here. Now be very careful. I've stripped this throughout so many times, so I recommend you go very, very, very slowly. Make sure it goes in straight. Once you have screwed that in, now you kind of have to make a choice. Depending on which way your carburetor is oriented in your vehicle, depends on which of these screws you plug with this screw and which are the ones you put the carburetor input cuff into. So now for me, I am running a Traxxas T-Max in this carburetor, so I am going to be using this hole for the intake. So I'm going to plug this hole. So I'm going to take my other screw, put the other rubber seal over it, and screw it in. This will leave just one hole left, and that is going to be the hole that you screw in your intake. Alright, that's nice and tight. Now we're going to put on the intake. Now, a little tip is this hole needs to line up with the hole in the intake. So I recommend what you do is take a marker and position and just draw a line where the intake hole comes out on both sides. Just like that. And that can just make it a lot easier. So now what you're going to do is make sure you have one silver washer on there. Then put on your intake nipple, your second washer, and then screw it on. Just like that. And now you can kind of look down and make sure that fuel can get in. So now you're going to be putting in your high-speed needle, which should look like this. So now, if you've already know what you want yours to be tuned to, then ignore what I'm about to do next. But if you don't, here's the factory setting. So you tighten your high-speed needle all the way down. Make sure not to like over tighten it because you don't want to break the needle, because that wouldn't be good. Okay, now back out the needle by 4 turns. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. Now it is time to assemble the low speed needle. So first step is to put in the carburetor slider with this notch facing towards this hole. So you're going to slide that into place, and then you got to get the spring. There's a little bend in the spring right here. Hopefully you guys can see that. And you need to get it over this lip. So just use your nail or even that flathead screwdriver we were using earlier and just get that aligned as it should be, and then it should, oh, misaligned it again. Make sure it's all the way around. Perfect. So now that should be nice and clear. Now make sure that the notch is facing the correct way. Actually, we're going to put in our idle speed screw first. You push that in, and as you start screwing it in, make sure, okay, I feel tension right there. That shouldn't be the case, and now this won't move. So that means that my notch is in the incorrect spot. So just keep playing around with it, rotating it until this goes into the notch comfortably. Since we're doing it, I'll show you the factory setting for the idle screw. This, you kind of have to look down here, and I'm sorry about the lighting. You really can't see that, but you're going to see a gap in between this wall and the slider when it's fully closed. You want there to be about 1 millimeter of a gap there. So tighten it to that, and that's just the factory setting. So you can, change that to whatever you want. You just gotta figure out what works best. So I'm tightening that up. That's about a 1 millimeter gap. Give it a little bit more maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna call that a 1 millimeter gap. So that's what this idle speed screw really does, is it changes that gap, and that's how it is able to edit your idle speed. Alright, that's good. Now we're going to do the low speed needle. So before you put it on, put on this little rubber boot. So that just kind of goes over the spring. It should fit into a little neck in the slider. You can pull the slider out to get it to align, and then pull it over this lip on the body on the other side. Alright, there we go. The boot's on. Perfect. So now here's another spot where you're going to have to be kind of careful. So this is how my carburetor is being oriented. You got to put this arm on in the orientation that your little arm where the servo is connected is put on. So this I really can't show you how to do. It's one screw with the 1.5 millimeter hex tool to tighten it down. So it's just going to be trial and error putting it in and out of your RC vehicle in order to get it right. So I'm going to go do that, and then I'll put you guys back on. Okay, so I just got the arm aligned. It's about 90 degrees, but I had to do trial and error. Oops, that seal fell off. So now it's time to put on the low speed needle finally. So simply plop it into place and start screwing it in. Now, Traxxas does not say the official turn count for where you want your low speed needle to be located, but they do say that you want it to be about horizontal with the little ridge formed inside the cuff. So if I tighten that until it's about flush, just about there. So you can see it's just about flush with that. So now, that is it. You have successfully built a Traxxas 2.5 and or 3.3 carburetor. Hopefully you found this tutorial helpful. Obviously, these are just the factory tuning settings. You're going to have to put this back into your Traxxas vehicle and tune it so that it gets you the best performance. Anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment in the section below for what videos you'd like to see next. That's all for today, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.